Because the spark plugs are buried so deep inside the cylinder head, it's really hard to know exactly what size socket to use. So before I try and remove the old ones, I'm going to measure one of the new ones. The nut part is 16mm, but because the thread is 10mm, this is known as a 10mm spark plug. Even the spark plug socket says 10mm on it. As you can see, this spark plug socket has a rubber sleeve inside it that grips the top of the plug and allows you to pull it out of the cylinder head easily. It also holds the plug straight when you're putting it back in and helps to avoid cross-threading. Now, most spark plugs nowadays come with a gap in the electrode already set, but I like to check just to make sure. So with my feeler gauge, just slide it in and check to make sure it can slide freely between the two electrodes without rattling up and down. As you can see, the gap is set to 0.8 of a millimeter and each plug is already perfectly set straight from the box. So that's absolutely fine. I'm going to check the other three so they're ready to go in and replace each spark plug one at a time. Starting at one side of the engine, in this case, number 1 cylinder. Carefully pull the spark plug cap off. I can feel and hear the threads on the terminal as I do this. Slide it out of the head and put it somewhere out of the way. Now slide the plug socket and extension bar into place and twist it until it's obvious it's correctly seated. I'm using a shortish extension so that I can get my ratchet in between the frame brace and the cylinder head. Using my ratchet, I can undo the plug until it's loose enough to undo by hand, feeling for the point when it clears the end of the threads. Now carefully slide the plug out. Once you swap the old plug for the new one in the socket, carefully slide it back into the head, making sure you don't bang the electrode on the end of the plug on anything hard, as you could easily close the gap. Also make sure you don't knock any dirt around the threads into the cylinder. With the plug socket and extension perfectly straight, gently screw the plug into the head. It should go in with very little resistance. If you can't turn it by hand, it's almost certainly cross-threading, so stop, unscrew it and try again. Once the plug is screwed in hand tight, it's preferable to torque it up, or you can do it by feel. In this case, the plugs have to be done up hand tight, then a further quarter turn. It's vital that you don't over-tighten spark plugs. The alloy that cylinder heads are made from is usually very soft, and you can strip the thread of a spark plug hole far too easily, so be as careful as you can be and follow the instructions to the letter. Plugs usually have a crush washer that will help maintain a constant torque as the plug is tightened up, but don't forget it only crushes once. That all seems fine, so I can refit the plug cap, making sure I feel and hear its seat on the terminal threads, and then I can start on cylinder number 2.